Over the last 3 years, the Detroit Lions have become one of the most successful teams in the NFL. However, though, they didn't get there overnight. They've had to learn quite a lot of things along the way. But this one rare quality is one of the biggest reasons for their success. What is it, though? We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So, here's the thing, folks. For me and my channel, Motor City Mania, one of the things I always like to do is I like to look at things at a different perspective. I always try to look at things a little bit outside the box because, you know, everybody can talk about football in a normal sense. Everybody can talk X's and O's for the most part. Everybody can talk stats. Everybody can compare and contrast. But for me, one of the things that I really like to do on my channel that I try to, make me stand out from other people is I try to look at things in ways that some people don't. And what I mean by that is on topics in areas that most people just don't really think about. So I thought, what is something I can do when it comes to the Detroit Lions in this category? And then I thought of this. I thought of this episode. Think about this, folks. Over the last 3 years, for the Lions and for us, the fans, we have been on both a whirlwind experience in terms of how fast we have seen the Lions, go from a 3-13-1 team in 2021 to a 12-5 team within a whisker of going to a Super Bowl at the end of last year. But despite that whirlwind experience, the Lions have also been filled with plenty of learning curves, plenty of learning experiences. And those experiences have not always been good. They have been both good and have been bad. And I'm going to say this right now. One of the things that I remember a pastor of mine telling me a long time ago is that experience is the best teacher. It's also the harshest. What that is supposed to mean is this, is that, listen, going through stuff, experiencing things will help you learn things better than anything else. But the experiences of life, the experience of having to go through things is typically a pretty harsh teacher because it doesn't hold punches. It sure as hell does not care for your feelings. It is going to give you the 100% raw, unbridled truth and experience, which means it's going to probably give you a very painful one. Now, speaking of those experiences for us Lions fans and also for the team, some of those experiences that I'm speaking of have definitely shaped the Lions into the team that they currently are. Think about it, folks. I'm talking about painful experiences. I'm talking about experiences that the team has learned from. Go back to 2021 and early 2022. There were a lot of painful, bitter losses that provided lessons and have, influenced the mental makeup, have influenced how the Detroit Lions are currently right now. Now, were those losses painful? Yes, they were painful, but they were very good learning experiences because it reinforced and it helped our Lions to first and foremost learn who they were. But it also, as Dan Campbell said, as Jared Goff have said, and as many other Lions fans have said, as many Lions have said and fans have now also been saying, it helped the Lions learn how to win. Because that was one of the biggest problems that we had with the Lions early on under Dan Campbell's. They had to learn first and foremost how to win games before losing them. And so, those losses then started helping us translate into the wins that reinforced those lessons that we had during the losses, and they have remained and have stayed learnt now that we're going into 2024. But I'm going to say this right now. Out of all the lessons that have been learned, one has strongly remained a consistent part of the Lions' identity. And it can be summed up in one word: aggressiveness. The Lions, ever since Dan Campbell took over, have been one of the most aggressive teams in the NFL. Now, some of you are going to say, well, David, that's not exactly a secret. That's not exactly something that, we aren't aware of. We know the Lions have been one of the most aggressive teams. Oh, I know that. We're going to get to the secret point. But that's leading into this. Some people, some Lions fans, would argue that Campbell's aggressive nature has been, in a sense, more of a hindrance than it has been a bonus to the Lions. And I can certainly understand where people come from in that perspective, because I myself at times have been a bit irked by Dan Campbell's aggressive nature. But the more I thought about it while I was making the notes for this episode, I actually now would kind of argue that the aggressive tendency that Campbell has instilled in the Detroit Lions has indeed been more of a bonus now than it has been of a drawback. Now, understand what I'm saying there. I'm not saying that it doesn't have drawbacks. I'm just simply saying that the good far outweighs the bad. Now, why is this aggressive trait that I'm talking about a bonus? It's a bonus because it has resulted in the Lions mastering this top secret trait, in mastering this rare quality that has in quite a few instances, quite a few times, led the Lions to the victories that we now have and also to the successes that we have. And that trait, that quality that I'm talking about, is deception. Think about it, folks. The Lions are one of the best teams. They are the masters of the art of deception in the NFL. And it has served them exceedingly well. Let me explain. Let's think about football in a different kind of context here, just to kind of set the table, so to speak. Football is much like a game of chess. It requires using the pieces or the resources that you have strategically to be able to win the match. Well, if you think of chess, then chess has often been used as a symbolic parallel when you're talking about warfare. And as you know, the great Chinese military mastermind Sun Tzu said, all warfare is based on deception. Well, going back to what I said about the Lions being masters of deception, the Lions have developed the mastery that they have like this, and I'm telling you, there are a few other teams right now in the NFL that have the ability to be as deceptive and as good at it as the Lions have. But as with anything, it's not outright developed. Let's call it for what it is. The Lions did not become one of the most best teams at being a deceptive team in the NFL overnight, and it sure as hell wasn't just something they picked up like that. They had to have a preceding event. They had to have something else that kind of got them to that point. That's where the aggressive nature that I'm talking about with Dan Campbell comes in. Think about it. That's why I'm saying the aggressive nature that Dan Campbell has exhibited has been more of a bonus than it has been of a hindrance. Because it's like, listen, first and foremost, the Lions being aggressive has allowed them to be in a state of mind that other teams typically don't have. So that right there is a bonus. But on top of that, that aggressive nature that Dan Campbell has, nurtured, has fostered with the Lions, has allowed them to not only be an aggressive team, but to be a team that knows how to be very good at trick plays, very good at sneaky plays, very good at plays that people just simply don't know are coming. Let's understand what I'm talking about here. Going back to how the aggressive nature that Dan Campbell has exhibited has been a preceding event for the Detroit Lions being one of the best trick play teams, one of the best deceptive teams in the NFL. Think about this, folks. When Dan Campbell started out in 2021, it was apparent very, very, very early on that Campbell was going to do whatever he could, and by any means necessary, so long as they were within the rule books, to make the Lions win. And what that meant was that the Lions were going to be aggressive, and they sure as hell were going to be risky. Think about this, folks. I had to look at the stats for this. Obviously, we all know the Lions are one of the most fourth down teams in the NFL. They go for it on fourth down quite a damn bit. But when I actually took a look at the numbers, I was actually kind of floored by how much we'd been doing it. Think about this, folks. In 2021, the Lions went for it on fourth down 41 times. That was number one in the league. In 2022, we went for it on 37 times. That was third most in the league. And last year, when we went 12-5, we went for it 40 times. That was second most in the league. Just do the math there really quickly, if you will. Since 2021, the Lions have gone for it on fourth down 118 times. That means that the Lions, and I looked this up, have gone for it on fourth down since 2021 more than any other team in the NFL. More than any other team. And think about it, in 2022 and in 2023, we had winning seasons. And in 2023, we went to the playoffs, won 2 playoff games, and like I said, we were that damn close to going to a Super Bowl. But it's not necessarily the fact that we go for it as much on 4th down that's actually kind of impressive. What's truly impressive is that we've been able to go for it on 4th down as much as we have in terms of volume, but also in terms of qualitative measurement, how good we've been at it, how well we've been able to convert on 4th down. Again, take a look at it. In 2021, of the 41 attempts that we had, we converted 21 times for 51.2 conversion rate. In 2022, we converted 20 times out of 37 attempts for a 54.1 conversion rate. And last year in 2023, we converted 21 times for a 52.5 conversion rate. So again, not only do the Lions have the most 4th down attempts since 2021 with 118, they also have the most conversions on 4th down in the NFL since 2021 with 62. So think about it. Not only do the Lions lead the NFL with most attempts on 4th downs in 2021 with 118, but we also lead the NFL with most conversions out of those attempts. That's very impressive. Not only means when we're going for it on 4th down, we're doing it quite a bit, but it also means that we are getting a lot of those extra chances by converting, which allows us to extend drives, allows us to get extra points. It allows us to win. It helps us win. That is a very important quality. That is a very important ingredient to the Dan Campbell recipe of success here in Detroit. Now, I talked about the preceding event, the aggressiveness, going for it on 4th down. That's all great, grand, and glorious. And like I said, the pattern that we should have noticed from those stats that I just put up in both instances is that regardless of how the team's talent level was, whether it's 2021 or 2023, Dan Campbell remained absolutely willing to play the aggressive game to the absolute max. And if you think about it, in the beginning, in 2021, the Lions might have done this out of more of a necessity factor rather than doing it just because, hey, you know what, we just want to be aggressive to be aggressive. But now they're doing it because of that reason, because they are both confident and they're good at it, like I demonstrated. Now, the aggressive factor, as I was saying, leads into the deception factor that the Lions have now mastered, which is why they are as good as they are now. Because, how do I put this? The Lions have used the propensity, the now established nature, the history over the last 3 years of being one of the most aggressive offenses to foster, to nurture the fact that they are now also one of the best trick play offenses in the NFL. Let's think about this, folks. When you have a team that you know is aggressive, they're going to go for it on 4th down. You know that there's a very high likelihood that's going to happen. It already gets that opposing defense wondering, okay, what the hell is this team about to pull? Are they going to do something in punt formations? Are they going to do something wild out of the freaking normal offense on 4th down? It pretty much means that every potential option is available, and it means that defenses have to cover everything. And I'm sorry, there are very few defenses that are good enough to cover every single option that an offense can throw out there, whether it's a trick play on offense or a trick play on special teams. And when you think about it, because of Dan Campbell's aggressive nature, but also because of his coordinator's willingness and creativity, whether it's Ben Johnson on offense as the offensive coordinator or it's Dave Phipp as the special teams coordinator, this has allowed the Lions to be the masters of deception in the NFL, which has allowed them in more ways than I can count, because I actually looked this up by watching freaking film on this. It has allowed them in a lot of ways to be able to win games when it looked like that they might going to lose it. And just think about this, folks. I had to go back and take a look at this because there's no real measurement in the NFL for, which team runs the most trick plays in the NFL? You can try and find something like that, but you're not going to find anything. You actually have to watch game film. You actually have to watch what the team did. Well, let's think about this. Over the last 3 years, the Lions have run I'm trying my best not to lose it, but they have run a crap ton of trick plays. Here are just some of the most successful, some of the most bodacious trick plays that the Lions have ran over the last 3 years. Go back to 2021 at the very end of the season. Remember that end around where freaking Jared Goff gave it to Tom Kennedy and Tom Kennedy threw it down the field to Khalif Raymond that scored a touchdown? That was one of the best trick plays that I have seen to date, and that was one of the first ones the Lions ran. Then you go to 2021 and take a look at Jack Fox. Jack Fox, as we knew, was a high school quarterback. But several times out of the punting formation that year, Jack Fox threw passes out of the punt formation for first downs to the gunners that were on either side of the punt formation. Then you take a look at 2022 when C.J. Moore was here, and now C.J. Moore is back, fresh from his, gambling suspension and everything else. Not going into that, but my whole point is this. C.J. Moore, just like Jalen Reeves-Maybin now, has had a multitude of times in the past with the Lions where he took direct snaps in the punt formation to pick up first downs. So think about it. The Lions special teams unit has a guy that can throw the ball as a punter. You've got guys in Jalen Reeves-Maybin and C.J. Moore who can take direct snaps and pick up first downs out of the backfield on either side of the punt formation. That is a very, I'm going to say this, hard thing to try and defend against in the punt unit if you've got all three of those guys that know how to play the trickery master, the deception game to a next level. But then, go also into 2022. Go back to the Goff to Penei Sewell play. With Penei Sewell coming in motion from the left side of the formation to the right, Goff throws it to Penei Sewell, and he catches it for a first down. If I recall correctly, that was against the Minnesota Vikings in that year. Then you take a look in 2022, going into 2023. How many times have we seen multiple end-arounds with Jameson Williams? Jameson Williams has become one of the best wide receivers in the NFL for taking end-arounds and either taking it to the house or getting big gains off of those plays. Then you take a look into 2023 specifically. Remember the one time Jared Goff walks up to the line and he's calling out signals or whatever, and the ball gets snapped while Jared Goff's hands are above center. What happened is that freaking Frank Ragnow snapped the ball through Goff's legs and snapped it directly to Montgomery, who was behind him. It was against the Panthers. That was a play that a lot of people were not expecting, but the Lions did it to perfection. It picked up a first down. Then you also look in 2023. The Lions in 2023, they ran a multitude of flea flickers, whether it was the traditional type of flea flicker or whether it was an end-around fake flea flicker, whatever the case was, but they did it a lot of times to guys like Laporta, to guys like Raymond, to guys like, Jameson Williams. They did this very, very often and very successfully. Again, if you guys watch the Lions games, and if you might not have listened to the actual announcers from the NFL, but if you listen to the Lions announcers with Lomas Brown, anytime that this kind of stuff happened, what did Lomas Brown always like to say, and still likes to say about Ben Johnson's offense? He will say that when this happens is that Ben Johnson was dialing up some trickeration, as he likes to say. My whole point is this. When you talk about Dan Campbell's aggressive nature, that right there was kind of the catalyst, if you will, that allowed the Lions to become one of the most deceptive teams in the NFL in regards to trick plays. But that two-headed monster right there of aggressive nature and now using trick plays to pick up first downs in key moments, think about it. It has made the Lions one of the best teams in the NFL of a rare quality that few teams either are willing to master or even good at doing. That right there, I think, is a huge ingredient, a huge component to the Lions' success. You can talk about all the talented players we want, which that's also huge. But having people have the confidence to put those plays into motion, having confidence in guys to go out there and run those plays, that is just as important as any amount of talented players you have on the field. And because of the confidence, because of the aggressive nature, because of the schematic genius that we have with our coordinators and our players' ability to run those types of plays, the Lions have become one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL when it comes to those types of trick plays because of their aggressive nature. It's a literal 1-2 punch, but you cannot have the one without the other. You can't just run trick plays all the time and not think, gee, what kind of preceded this event? Because that doesn't usually work very often. That's my whole point with this episode. Dan Campbell's aggressive nature, while to some people they might consider it a hindrance, it has actually been such a huge bonus to the Lions because it has fostered confidence, which has also allowed them to be an extremely deceptive team, which allows them to win games more often than not because of their ability to run trick plays. That's my whole point. But Having said that, I think I'm going to end the episode here because I think I've explained it fairly well enough. So having said that, I'm going to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. I also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and not had a chance to do so, again, highly encourage y'all to subscribe. But I also encourage y'all, please, to make sure you hit that bell notification icon at the bottom of the page, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also encourage y'all to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel grows, the greater the channel spreads. And with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the content. I hope everyone's having a good day. Hope you all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.